How sweet it is. Welcome to the garage, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux, the Court of Public Opinion, our posting for Thursday. Lots of things to talk about. The new knife laws, for example. New knife laws implemented in Adelaide just this weekend gone by. Most interesting. Police with wands, they're the things that electronically, like a metal detector, they sort of scan people randomly, I suppose. Anyway, the police with wands descended upon Burnside Village this weekend, just gone by. The very upmarket, posh shopping centre here in Adelaide, which, to my knowledge, has never seen any knife-orientated violence or any kind of violence for that matter. They say that they found 3 knives. One of them was an R.M. Williams belt-worn Bushman's penknife. Really? Whoa, I have one of those. Lots of people do. Hardly a machete. Anyway, Burnside, Beaumont, round that neck of the woods, would have to be one of the most benign, incident-free precincts in South Australia. What was that about? Was that about saying, well, look, if we go straight to the seat of the problem, for which this law was passed, the northern and western suburbs, strong Labor seats, by the way, it mightn't look good. I say, so what? Target the suburbs or ethnic groups where statistics tell you most knife attacks, machete attacks, occur. I'm pretty sure Burnside Village was a waste of police resources and time. The mums and dads, the matrons of the eastern suburbs, would have to be pretty law-abiding, I reckon. Unless I'm very naive. Now, after the United Nations Assembly, Prime Minister Albanese flew to Great Britain to meet what he described as progressive governments. I suppose that means like his. Progressive governments, meaning the left-wing leaders of Canada, France and Britain. David Crowe of the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age calls it a lefty love-in. What is progressive about being stupid? I'd love to know. Maybe you could ring me tomorrow and tell me what progressive governments of the left are actually progressing towards. 0491 65, 68, 60. In our case, with electricity prices, it's bankruptcy. It is said that Mr. Albanese is seeking to get closer to like-minded countries. You see, it's not the countries that are like-minded, it's the leaders, the lefties, one and all. Anthony Albanese says he does not want to see a rise in populist governments. Well, I'm sorry, the last time I looked, that's how you actually got elected. You got to be popular. Popular means most people, or a majority, are with you. You're popular because you have the policies that people like, agree with. What's wrong with being popular? Oh, that's popular. That can't be good. They, meaning we the people, us, we don't know. Governments will tell the people what's good. What would people know about these things? You see what I mean? You guys have policies that you describe as progressive, and I say again, progressing towards what? The sight of our Prime Minister walking towards 10 Downing Street with a 4-pack of beer in his hand and his lady in the other does not fill me with pride. Interesting, Prime Minister Albanese was asked on the Insiders on Sunday morning to make a comment on Donald Trump's speech to the UN. Well, he said very diplomatically, because he's meeting up with Trump in a couple of weeks, he said very diplomatically, "Oh, it's not my job to comment on other leaders. It's my job to act always in the best interests of Australia." Well, why doesn't he apply that to climate change and net zero nonsense? That is certainly not in the best interests of Australia. He reckons he's saving the world. Bugger Australia. He really does like the world stage. Lunch with the King of England. He is a globalist. He wants to be seen as an international statesman. Trump, however, is totally for the United States. Bugger the rest of the world. He's a nationalist. Another nationalist leader comes to mind, and that is the great Lee Kuan Yew, the man who made Singapore the great nation state that it is today. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, being a nationalist is far better than being a globalist. Why would we cozy up to Palestine at the annoyance of our greatest ally, the United States? To me, it makes no sense. A murderous, misogynist bunch of terrorists. What's in it for us? Oh yes, sorry, I did forget. A bunch of Western Sydney, largely Muslim seats. Silly me. You don't reward or recognise terrorism. Hamas started this war. They are still in control. They are terrorists. They will not release the hostages. You will not get rid of them easily. On another subject, in the true spirit of Voltaire, who said many things, many wonderful things, but I like this one particularly, "I disagree with what you say, but I shall fight to the death for your right to say it." Jimmy Kimmel, I don't watch him. That's my choice. That's how you censor these people, by the way. You just don't tune in. What he and other late-night hosts say on network television in America is very left-wing, progressive, liberal rubbish, in my opinion. And with 20 comedy writers, you would think that they could do better than just constantly make up jokes at the expense of the President of the United States. They all hate Trump. Well, when Charlie Kirk said, "Gun deaths in America are the price that we have to pay for the Second Amendment," it is true that Jimmy Kimmel and all the late-night show hosts hate Trump and they have freedom of speech. That is the price Americans have to pay for the First Amendment. And I say again, I disagree with what you say, but I will fight to the death for your right to say it. Kimmel got his job back. The network was smart there. But you can understand Trump feeling that he has a stacked deck against him. Well, that's politics, that's public life. You step out there and you have to accept what comes. When I was sacked for my opinion with regard to Brittany Higgins, which was my personal opinion, I think reasonable, and historically has shown to be perfectly reasonable, and indeed popular opinion, but the radio station didn't. They have a right. Like the ABC network in America, management has a right to sack people if it wants to. Unfortunately, as in the case of 5AA, they have to wear the consequences. Do not offend your core audience. You do that at your peril. Now, Peter Ridd, if you were listening last Friday, you'd have heard Professor Peter Ridd, the guy who was fired from James Cook University for using his freedom of speech and knowledge of science. He had the temerity to say, scientists are getting it wrong. The Great Barrier Reef, nothing wrong with it. It's fine. So they sacked him. You know, he was just sort of not following the rhetoric, the script. Now, these days, he's a strong advocate for freedom of speech, currently campaigning against the Human Rights Commission climate information legislation. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you have the wrong opinion on climate change, they will close you down, even send you to jail. Anyway, Professor Ridd was a great guest on Friday morning around the dining room table, jeremycordeaux.com, 9 to 12. And this Friday, tomorrow, Professor Ian Plimer will be there, Senator Bob Day, and Leith Van Onselen from Marco Business. Now he says, when I say Marco, I think it's actually macro. Yes, I'm sure it is. It's macro business. You can look that up. It's a very interesting website. He says South Australia is regarded as the nation's leader in renewable energy, which with the highest penetration of wind and solar generation in the country. Now he asks, what is going to happen when all of Australia follows South Australia down the renewables path? Unaffordable electricity, he says, and a national disaster, he says. You will want to hear this man. I didn't make this up. This is him. He'll be on the show tomorrow. Victoria wants to make working from home a legal and human right. Jacinta Allen, Premier, if she has her way, that's what will happen. But my bet, if she does, business, and big business in particular, will leave the state. What has Labor got against the workers of this country? Working from home is not a human right. You accept a job, you work for somebody, he or she is the boss, they call the tune, they tell you where you work. You don't like it? Leave. That's the freedom we enjoy. $32 billion. The Gambling Research Centre says, per capita, Australians are the biggest gamblers in the world. $32 billion a year. Wow. You know, there's the old story about Australians in a bar or somewhere, two flies crawling up the wall. We'll have people betting on the outcome. Maybe this is just something in our DNA. But the biggest per capita gamblers in the world. Wow. McCrindle Research, I like the stuff they come up with. It's sort of sometimes outside the square. This certainly is. McCrindle Research have found that 27%, nearly 30% of us, believe in the supernatural. Ghosts, spooks, poltergeists, things that go bump in the night. Well, I don't dismiss it. Not for a second. It'd be very high-handed and silly to do that. You could argue, you know, that conventional religion is belief in the supernatural. And I would think it'd be more than 30% of us that one way or another believe in a religion of some kind. I wonder what, if you're a methylated spiritualist, what then? Yes. Well, you'd take some paracetamol, I think. Paracetamol, you would have heard this. Paracetamol, or as it's called in the United States, it's called Tylenol. Panadol here more commonly. It's a very, very oft-used analgesic. Now linked to autism and ADHD, if taken during pregnancy. Trump and RFK Jr., the Secretary of the Health Department, or whatever they call it over there, they're being ridiculed for actually saying it. But something is causing it. Something is causing it. Is it worth taking the risk? I would say no. If you're pregnant, wouldn't it make a lot more sense to watch absolutely everything you put in your mouth? I don't know what you might make of this, speaking of things you put in your mouth, but the oldest person in the world, a lady who lived to 117, who died recently in Spain, she said her secret was having yogurt 3 times a day, 3 meals a day, yogurt. She suggested that when she died, people could study why she had had such a long and trouble-free life. No illness, no ailments. And the Mediterranean diet, yes, but yogurt, I don't know. I'm sort of prepared to try it, but do I really want to live to 117? I don't know. I don't think so. We're here with the best wishes of the rising sun here in the garage in the Court of Public Opinion at 60 Bridge Street at Kensington. Now, it doesn't matter whether you approach Bridge Street at Kensington from Kensington Road or from Norwood Parade. The council, Burnside Council, have been very kind, and they've put a great big sign at each end saying, "This way to the rising sun." Now, I don't know, Grant, how you swung that, but you've obviously got friends in City Hall. But when you get there to the rising sun, you'll love it. Regularly chosen as the best pub or inn in South Australia. They've been there since 1845. And Jim Elder Art Gallery in Melbourne Street, North Adelaide, with the last big auction of the year coming up. They're at 106 and 110 Melbourne Street, North Adelaide. Jim and Helen Elder. And if you'd like a free evaluation, appraisal of a painting to include maybe in that auction, 8267 2869. You can look him up. He's looking for notable paintings for the last big auction of the year. Now, the dates. Happy birthday if you're having a birthday. It's October the 2nd. Beatrix Potter's Tale of Peter Rabbit is published by Frederick Warne and Co. in London on this day, October the 2nd, 1902. Phileas Fogg, isn't that a wonderful name? Phileas. You wouldn't really call a baby Phileas, would you? Phileas Fogg. Anyway, Phileas Fogg sets out on his journey as depicted in Jules Verne's Around the World in 80 Days on this day in 1872. Rock Hudson, American actor, Pillow Talk, Farewell to Arms, Ice Station Zebra, dies of an age-related complication at the age of just 59. It was 1985 that he died. Probably the most glamorous movie star, along with Cary Grant. There have been a few, but certainly a brilliant star. Tragic waste. 1942, World War II, British naval... Oh, that's interesting. The British Navy boards a floundering German U-boat. On this day, it was U-559, retrieving the abandoned Enigma code machine before the submarine sinks. Unfortunately, when it did go down, it took 2 British sailors with it, but they got the Enigma, which shortened the war amazingly. Very important day, this day in World War II. Wow. The question, it's only one paragraph. I'd like to know whether the British Navy knew that the Enigma was on the submarine. Or maybe all the U-boats had Enigma machines on them. I don't know. Darren Cahill, Australian tennis player and coach. He coached Andre Agassi. Is it Linton Hewitt? Leighton Hewitt. Leighton Hewitt. It's not spelt properly here. Andy Murray, born Adelaide, South Australia, 1965, still going strong somewhere. I'm not sure. He may be back here now. I don't know. First cartoon comic strip is printed in a newspaper, 1895. Thomas Lipton, later to become Sir Thomas Lipton, Scottish yachtsman, 5 times America's Cup challenger and tea merchant, Lipton Tea, dies at 81. The year was 1931. Mahatma Gandhi, Indian independence activist and spiritual leader, was born in 1869. Tom Petty. You like Tom Petty? Yeah. Tom Petty, American classic rock singer and songwriter. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Yeah. American Girl, Traveling Wilburys, Last Night. I Won't Back Down. Dies of an accidental overdose. What a waste. Age just 66. The year was 2017. Homing pigeon. Don't know which one, but a homing pigeon averages a record 133 kilometres per hour in a 1,100 kilometre race in Australia. 1971. That's one hell of a fast pigeon. Don McLean, American singer and songwriter, was born in 1945. Okay, we're the same age. One more. Gene Autry. Gene Autry, American cowboy singer, songwriter, back in the saddle again. Not widely known, but he wrote Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. He did. And he was a very clever businessman too. He owned a whole mess, well, not a mess, a network of radio stations in the United States. And he also owned the MLB Angels team. He died of lymphoma at 91. The year was 1989. Anyway, I hope it's a wonderful day, if it's a day of celebration for you. Thank you for being with us here in the garage. I look forward to your company tomorrow. 0491 65 68 60 if you'd like to join us around the dining room table, jeremycordeaux.com. See you then. Thanks for being with us. Believe in yourself, and goodbye for now.